And we want to welcome you to the customer support volunteer training for returning volunteers. If we haven't met before, I'm Holly Daniels. I'm the new senior manager of volunteer resources at P&P, and I've been so lucky to get to work with Mia a lot on the manual and the training tonight. I also want to recognize Tara Kiefer, who's on this call, who is also a P&P employee who's been helping a lot with manual and training for customer support volunteers and was one last year at ESNS. And I think so with that, I'm going to hand things off to Mia. And Mia, we're so excited to hear what the updates that you have for us tonight. And thank you so much for doing this training.
Thank you, Holly. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Mia. I use she or they pronouns. I've been with PMP for, I think almost 4 years now. In different roles, I used to work on the FAIR program, and I last year started as a tax manager. I also volunteered one season before that. So I don't have an exact number on volunteering with PMP, but I've been around for a while in different capacities. And yeah, this year, what am I looking forward to? Um, I'm looking forward to seeing how some of the changes that Prepare and Prosper has made for this tax year, kind of just how they play out. We've had a lot of um, interesting challenges in terms of um, IRS, Minnesota Department of Revenue, giving us the information that we need when we need it. And, sometimes things don't work out, but I think the great thing about Prepare and Prosper is that um, we always get that essential work done and we help each other through those questions, through those challenges. So I think it's going to be a good tax season. Um, so this training is for our returning customer support volunteers. Um, we're going to be going over the 2025 season overview. We'll go through a recap about the check-in and screening, financial services and referrals, and the checkout. In each of these sections, there are a few updates that are going to be important to note. I'm also going to be referencing our customer support manual. I'll at some points stop sharing my screen so that I can actually show you the video. I'm sure some of you are on smaller screens. Um, but Holly is going to be monitoring the chat for me. Holly also put the link for the online version of the manual in there. If you click on that and then you click sign in as guest, you should be able to view that document. So if you have any questions, please just put them in the chat. And we're gonna talk through things and then we're gonna have a little bit of a break in the middle. So just be aware of that. We'll do like a 10-minute break in the middle. Yeah. Okay, let's jump in. Okay, so a lot of the things are the same. We're going to be having multiple sites. We'll be having 9 sites. One of the things that is new is that we will have the one dedicated Spanish speaking site. We did a pilot version of it last year, which was super exciting. It was very successful. And we continue to improve that program and be in different spaces in the community. All of the appointments all of the appointments are all the services will be by appointment. So some people have been saying that they want the walk-ins. A lot of people are saying not, and I'm telling you that we're still doing just appointments. Of course, We do have walk-in as an option, as you all know, working with your manager on, if we have the capacity for that is always an important thing to do. Of course, we want to serve customers if we're able, but we need to work as a team to make sure we're able to do that. And then, of course, we have our self-employment program that is still available for the self-employment people with $10,000 of income, over 10,000, or complex situations such as having part of their home as a business or having inventory, those kinds of situations. And then we have our lovely remote tax preparation service to help those who are not able to physically come into the clinics, which is a really great program. And then, of course, the do-it-yourself tax preparation with that support from PNP. I love this program. I use it as well for my tax preparation. It can be a great resource for people who might be out of scope for us, but are tech savvy enough to use that. So yeah, all these things are what we know is great about PNP. So as a reminder for the CSV, our priorities, we have the check-in, financial services, and the checkout. Those are the three pieces that the CSV is responsible for. So with the check-in, we're providing paperwork and we're also doing the screening. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about how that there are a few changes to those items this year. And then also matching customers with preparers. I think that one of the really good things that we've added to the manual is a section about making sure that customers are being paired with the correct preparers for the certification level. That's really important for the flow of the tax clinic. For offering financial services, we're going to be talking about opening the prepaid debit cards. We're also going to have a little section on FAIR. We have some exciting updates about the services that we're going to be hopefully providing live to customers for FAIR. I'm sure many of you know who Claudia is. Claudia is going to be on later on to talk about that. And then saving options and making referrals, we'll go through those things. And then we'll talk about the checkout process, doing the final review with a customer, getting signatures. And then there are a few items that are new this year for taxes. You don't need to be an expert on how it works exactly, but there are a few points where we want customers to be walking away understanding what the changes are for them, depending. Sorry, the other cat is getting crazy too now. I don't remember what I was saying.
Knowing enough about taxes to make sure people are in the right spot, I think.
Yes. There are two updates related to renter's credit and the child tax credit that you don't need to be an expert on, but you do need to know what are the things that I know that I need to tell this customer, hey, just so that you understand this is how this is happening. Okay, good. But that's what we'll need from you at that point. Okay. And then, as always, you have your resources. We have the new CSV manual. Please come and pick that up, or I think Holly has also been mailing that out. Whatever you need to do to get your hands on that, that would be great. We made a lot of updates to it, which I'm very excited about. We also have the volunteer training website where they've been making a lot of updates as well to some of the training, such as the intake interview training and those kinds of things. And then, of course, all of the people that you have, managers, the preparers and reviewers working with them. I think that on the other side of CSVs being resources to you, you will also be resources to our new incoming CSVs. And then the volunteer resource department, and Holly is our face for that right now. Okay. So same process. We love telling customers that it can take up to 2 to 3 hours and then them being like, what? But that's just how it goes. Customers are going to arrive for their appointment. You'll do the brief screening with them. And then the preparer does the tax interview and preparation with the customer. During that time, the CSV can be checking in with people about financial services. And then the customers wait in the waiting area while their return is being reviewed. Once the return is ready for after the review process, the CSV is the one that's going to be going through all the closing details and getting the signatures to approve the return. The same financial services and referrals are going to be available. CFR cards, we'll go through a little bit of the enrollment. The enrollment portal was new last year, but we'll just go through it, look at it quickly to remind ourselves of what that looks like. We will also still have the Save and Win contest and be providing credit reports. And then the only thing that is really different, which is unfortunate, there are no more savings bonds. So people are no longer able to get savings bonds through their tax refund. That system is completely shut down. I think that there was a hope that it would be phased out or that we would get, more updates or sooner updates about it, but it was just, nope, we're not doing this anymore. So that's something to be aware of for people who are used to doing that during their tax preparation. We also have FAIR. We'll talk a little bit about that and how that's going to work for this tax season. And of course, Money Mentors, which is a Prepare and Prosper program, and then LSS Financial Counseling, the PMP Volunteer Financial Planners, Exodus Lending, and College Bound in St. Paul. Sorry, I'm just checking the time here. Okay. So moving on to the intake and screening updates reminders. So as a reminder for intake, you'll have your resources, the checklist. The checklist is, I personally feel, is the best tool to, if you're ever like, what am I supposed to be doing? Go down the checklist. Of course, if you're still having questions, you should always talk with your manager, but that's the best way to figure out where am I at in this process? What are the things that need to happen? As well, we have referrals. This is really helpful for if you know that somebody is going to need resources that are outside of Prepare and Prosper. We have this referral document for different support. Of course, we want to answer questions to the best of our ability. So if you don't know an answer, it's better to ask a manager first. But if you know that this is something that this person is going to have to figure out outside of us, then that handout is available. Okay, so the check-in process at a glance. This is page 14 in your manual. And oops, I'm going to stop sharing so that I can, I don't know, maybe this is silly to be showing you like the physical version, but I'm just gonna do it. But this page is new. It breaks down the check-in process kind of as a step-by-step guide. So this is at the front section of that check-in process, and then you'll see that the following pages in your manual take each of those steps and gives you more information on what are the resources that you need and the details that you need to follow each of those steps. Of course, as returning CSVs, you know that sometimes things don't always happen in the order that they're happening on this page, depending on how many people are coming in, what preparers are available, all of those things. But this is a really great tool for reference. If you're trying to remember what am I supposed to do again, this is like a quick reference guide for you.
Yeah, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes, of course.
Would you share a little bit about the kind of overall the changes that we made to the CSV manual and your take on what's best about them? And I just want to brag on Mia that Mia was really pivotal in a lot of the changes and the overhaul and the revamp.
Yeah. Thank you, Holly. Definitely, I think that this like at a glance page is really helpful for folks, especially your teammates that are going to be new, the new CSVs. This is for the check-in process, and then we'll also talk about the check-out process has a very similar at a glance view. It points out what are the, see, this is silly that I'm doing it like this. What are the resources that you need for each part that you're trying to do? And then what are the action steps that you are taking in each of those parts? So, and then we've done our best with each of those steps to have a very similar structure to how it is that we're explaining. So that way you have listed all of your resources that you need for each step, and then the details and common issues that you might come across for each of those things. And yeah, I think that that is kind of the biggest thing that was changed. The financial services are pretty much the same. I feel like, I don't know if this was the case before, but our table of contents to me looks a lot better. And maybe this was already here, but for each service, there are the page numbers for each financial offering. So I think that that's also helpful to really make this manual something that can be used as a quick reference guide while you are on site and maybe trying to figure out information in a very quick way. Okay.
Thanks for sharing a little more, Mia. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Holly. Back to the slides. Here we go. Okay. So we're still using Acuity for scheduling. People can schedule online or over the phone. As we have in the past, we are opening up those appointments every 2 weeks. I know that many of you have experience working with Acuity. Managers may be asking you to help with updating the labeling in Acuity. This training is not necessarily in the manual because we know that there's a lot that you're doing. Acuity is kind of like a, if there's extra time to help with that, managers really appreciate it. But managers are also able and should make sure that everything is being done in there as well. If your manager is open to you making appointments in Acuity, you can do that. But I would also say that it's best to always ask and figure out what works for everybody, because we also want to make sure that we're managing our capacity for the number of volunteers that we have. Let's see. Yeah. So the customer sign-in sheet, this is going to look the same this year. That's a lie that it's added column for online intake because we also did that last year. But as a reminder, that is a column that we have. So there will be a column. Your manager should be updating that before you arrive to your shift or as you're arriving to your shift. And they will either have those printed out for you already, or will ask you to come to them to print those out as customers arrive. Again, the numbering system is very important. We are numbering folks as they, in the order that they arrive based on the block of time for their appointment. The way the instructions for being able to do that, you can see, is on page 15 of the manual to get some clarification on how to do that. And then walk-ins, you can write it at the bottom of the sheet, and if we're able to serve them, we will. Always ask a manager. I'll say another thing about this that's important is if customers have multiple years, always making sure that you're checking in with the manager about that. Customers are guaranteed 1 year of tax preparation per appointment. A lot of the times we can do more than 1 year, but just make sure that you're checking in with your manager. Okay, screening tool. So on the front cover of your manual is the screening tool. You're going to notice that there are some very small updates. So I highly recommend before the season starts that you actually just read through the screening process, because I can already see that my screenshot on here is wrong. My screenshot is not the updated one. In the manual, it says our income limits are 40,000 for singles and 70,000 for families. So, or any return that has more than one person. So you can see that my screenshot on my PowerPoint here is saying 60,000, but that income limit is actually 70,000. So those are the important things that we need to know before the tax season starts. And there are also a couple of things about, let's see, where is it? Somewhere in here. When you go to your breakout rooms, I want you to find the place where it tells you that renters need to have all of their CRPs at the time that they file. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but that's another change in the screening tool that is very small but is important. Okay.
Okay, I'm just gonna bust in with some bad news. That
Okay.
change actually did not make it into the manual because
That's why I
files
confirmed
and
it.
printers, and they're like, we already have the screening tool, and they stuck the wrong one in there. But on the ones that you receive, the loose versions with that are laminated, it will have the small edit saying to ask for CRPs, certificates of rent paid. So noticed that today, and it was like, oh,
I know that you did it, Holly.
I
Even if
did
it
do
didn't
that,
make it
Mia.
on here, you did that. Okay. Um, customer paperwork options. Um, again, they can do online or on site. Okay. And then the printing options, if people need help with printing, we're still using that QR system this year that worked out pretty well last year. So we're going to continue with that and working with managers to print using the QR codes. Okay, before I get into the intake paperwork updates, there are quite a few here. Are there any questions about the intake process that we just went over? A lot of it is the same, but just any questions?
This is Sandy. I just had a question about the dollars for self-employment. In the
Yes.
past, it was like the higher dollar amount for everybody, but the single one is 40,000. Does that apply to SE?
Um, I'm sorry, I don't think I'm quite understanding your question.
So in the past, the 70,000 would apply to all self-employed people, whether they were single or not, or if they were families.
Oh,
That's my question.
okay. I actually don't know about that personally. I haven't heard that, but Holly, do you know anything about that?
When I saw your question, Sandy, I popped next door and asked Willie, and he said the self-employment limits are the same. So now I'm curious about
Okay.
the nuance in your question. So I'll message him and get an answer for you, put it in the chat.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sandy. And as always, the income limits that we have on those are not, they're not IRS requirements. They're what we put out there in order to make sure that we're serving the community that needs our services the most. But, when a person is in our office, the manager is able to use their discretion about what income will we be able to serve. So with that, always ask your manager. I would say assume that, for singles, it's 40,000 and family for 70,000 in both the normal clinics and the self-employment, but always ask the manager if we're able to still serve that person if they are above for some reason. Thank you for your question. Does anyone else have questions about the intake process, screening process? Okay. If anything comes up, please put it in the chat or unmute. Feel free to talk. I'm talking a lot, so I would love if someone else wanted to talk at some point too. Don't feel like you're interrupting me. Okay, so next up we have the intake paperwork updates. So we're not going to go through all of the intake paperwork, but we're going to go through the parts that are different this year. So with the volunteer checklist, there are some minor updates to the wording and the order. So with this, you're always checking through, and as before, you just write not applicable if it doesn't apply to the person. But some of the changes here that we'll see, and this is on page 74 in the appendix as well. I know Holly mentioned that the screening tool is a little bit off with the documents. I think that the same thing happened with our checklist here, but it should mostly be up to date. There's just a few sentences that got edited. But the biggest thing here on the screening checklist is about the renter's credit. So the renter's credit is now a part of the Minnesota state filing. It used to be that it was a separate filing called M1PR, which was for homeowners, mobile owners, and renters to receive that credit. Now, renters are on the Minnesota state filing. So those folks will receive their renter's credit with their state filing. So they're not going to be waiting until August in order to receive that refund. But they do need to, because it's with the state filing, it is much more ideal if they have all of their CRPs for the state filing instead of doing the system before where we've said, oh, you don't have your CRP, you can file your state right now, and then you can submit your CRP later. That's not a system that we're using anymore, because if somebody wants to add a CRP later, they have to go through an amendment process for the state filing. So that's why that checklist item is there, because we anticipate that there are going to be some renters who come who are going to think that they don't need to have all of their CRPs, but they do need to have it there. So we want to make sure, if they're not able to do the filing today, that we send them home and tell them to make an appointment when they have their CRPs. So that's a change there in relation to CSVs.
Mia, can I ask a question
Yes.
related to that? Has that been communicated out to like previous customers so they know, or when they make appointments, so that they're not
Yes.
surprised? Okay.
So last year we had on the back of the customer envelope updating people about those changes for renters. We've also been we're sending out communication with our brochure for this tax year about those changes as well. I know that communications team is working on making sure that that's in our outreach emails as well. We're going to be missing people. Some people are just not going to get that information before they come. But we are trying to send out that information in the ways that we can before they come. So hopefully a lot of people are going to know about this, but of course there's going to be some people that aren't going to be prepared and might be annoyed that they can't get their taxes done that day when they come. And that's how that goes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I also have a question, if that's
Yes.
okay.
Mhm.
So is there any case in which if someone did not have their CRPs with them, that we would still file their taxes that day? Like it's right before their, end of season, right before it's due, or they said, oh, I only get like $10 usually anyway. Like, I don't care. I'd rather just do my taxes even if I don't do that. Is there like any situation like that? Or is it kind of, just across the board a no?
Yeah. I would say to that, we can file without the CRPs. However, that's not always going to be advantageous to the taxpayer because they are missing out on that part of their refund. In terms of like, are we filing accurate tax returns? If they have CRPs but not with them and they don't want to file with the CRPs, it's not worth it to them to go get it. We can still file their Minnesota state return. However, we are wanting to avoid as much as we can people filing their state return and then doing amendments at a later date in order to add CRPs. So I would say in those situations, work with your manager to determine what would be the best thing to do with the customer. There is flexibility in that, though. We can file the state return without the CRPs. It's just that they're not claiming their renter's credit if they decide to do that. And if they wanted to go through the amendment process, they could, but they would need to understand that, you know, that's a process that can take several months. It's going to add more time for them, more work for them to be able to do that, more work for us on P&B side. So yes, there's flexibility, but we hopefully are encouraging our taxpayers to choose the option that is going to be getting them the most of their refund with the least amount of. Any other questions about that?
I have a statement. My name is Sharon.
Okay.
When they're making their appointment or scheduling their appointment through the scheduling portal, will there be a question? Do they actually speak to someone, or is there a question or statement that just lets them know? I'm in human resources, and I know even though you send out emails and you know, send out all this information, people don't read it or it doesn't click.
Absolutely.
And so is there anything when they're making the schedule, or I mean scheduling, that will just say, you know, you need to have your CRP, it's best something just to, as a last point to
Absolutely.
make them aware.
Good question, Sharon. Holly, can you speak to that, please? If you're able.
Yes. And because I was putting a chat in the chat, can you, Sharon, remind me?
Oh, yes. I think that I know the answer to this, but I just wanted you to confirm it. But Sharon asked, when people are making appointments, if they're on the phone, is somebody asking them about if they're having the CRPs?
For sure, yes. The folks who call and make the appointment are definitely getting the verbal note by the person who they're speaking to. For the folks who are scheduling themselves online, that is part of the confirmation email. It's going to be at the top of the list of documents they need to bring. So
thank you.
We are going to do our very best to make sure that they show up knowing that they need to have that CRP with them.
Yes. Thank you. And this was what I was talking about at the beginning. What I'm interested in seeing is that, you know, we have put a lot of thought into these changes, and we're trying our best at every touch point to do our best in informing people and making them prepared as possible. And we'll have to see how that goes.
It's me again.
Yes, Sharon.
In the communication, when they're scheduling themselves, does it say anything about this is a new process? You know, because if you say that, they might think, oh, I really don't need this. But if it says it's something new, maybe that'll help them to pay more attention to it.
That's a really good comment, and I will pass that on for sure, because I agree, Sharon.
Okay, because, you know, they might have, yeah, I just think they possibly think it's something that's been going on, but I think if it's stated that it's a new process, that hopefully that'll make them pay more attention to that.
Thank you, Sharon. Yes, absolutely. I think that as returning CSVs, we all know how people don't read the thing that they need to be reading.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to make sure with something that is so new like this, trying to be as clear as we can about it. So thank you.
Yeah, this is Steve. Can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely, Steve.
Yes. Now, presumably, when they're filing their federal and state return, if they don't have the CRP and they want to go ahead and file their state return, presumably then it would, we'd have to do an amendment. How would the state revenue handle their refund then? Would they hold the refund until the person sends an amendment in? Or?
No, the state would not be aware that this person is planning on amending their return. It would still be processed the same. The amendment would be just the same as any other amendment if you are adding a W-2 or adding a dependent,
Okay.
it would be the exact same process. The state would not know this person has CRPs that they didn't submit. We're gonna wait. No, they're just gonna process the refund as they do. Thank you.
Mia,
That's a good question.
Mia, can I ask a question or make a comment? This is Dolores.
Yes. Hi, Dolores.
Hi. I think Willie said in one of the presentations that we had was that we were going to try our best to not do the CRPs until they have them all, and that we could give people the option of going home and getting it, and we reschedule them within that current day and try to get it through, especially because of the fact that we are doing it, it's part of the state process now, and you wouldn't want to do that state return and then have to amend everything. So I think we're just discouraging anyone from doing it and making our schedule more flexible so that we can get those people back in.
Absolutely. I am bringing up amendments, but please don't do that with customers. That is a last resort, as Dolores said. We want people to be able to go home, get their CRPs if they can, if they know that they need a little more time to get it. If you're able to schedule them an appointment, please do that. We understand that this is a new process. We want to be as accommodating to people as possible, but we want them to be as fully prepared as we can at the time that they are sitting down to get their taxes prepared. So definitely that's what we want to do. I bring up the amendment thing because it's you know, if somebody's like, oh, I have a CRP, but I whatever, they can still technically file. We can do that. But it's definitely not ideal situation. Us on the PMP end, it does create a lot more work to do that. So we want to avoid that. But also for the customer, it creates more work and stress for them as well. So we want to be as accommodating as possible at the beginning portion to make sure that once they're sitting down with the preparer, they have everything that they need. Thank you.
You know, it might be handy to, I don't know if this would work or not, but if you could, as the people walk into the lobby there downstairs, you could have a sign saying, you know, please have your renter's credit form handy for the PNP to process your taxes.
Yes.
You know, before they get up to the desk.
They don't always read the signs though either, as we know. Because it says be prepared to wait 2 to 3 hours, and there's always surprise.
It also says bring your social security card.
But it can't hurt.
This is gonna be a fun tax season, I can tell.
It definitely will be. But yes, I appreciate that. I know that we are trying to get as many materials out there ahead of time as possible. We also will have materials on site that explain this change to customers, so and how it impacts them. So you're absolutely right, Steve.
Because a lot of times, I mean, I've been a renter for quite a while, and very, very few management companies spit out those CRP forms with, you know, by January 15th.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of them can get really late into February, and I think a lot of people are going to be a little perturbed.
Absolutely. And I know that, you know, this is a change that it impacts us, but this is a change that has been coming up for a while, landlords and anybody that's renting out, the state, I don't know what their best is, but they've been doing their best to get this information out to landlords as well, that taxpayers are going to need this form by that April 15th instead of the August deadline. So hopefully, there are other forces outside of what's in control in PMP that are also helping to make this a smooth process. We know it's gonna be a wild ride, but we do our best.
Yeah, I'm afraid it is. Oh well, we're troopers, I'll tell you.
Yes, especially the CSV. I mean, everybody, but
you bet.
CSVs, you get that initial reaction. All right. Okay, we're gonna move on. But please, if you have any further questions or suggestions, if we have time at the end, we can open it up to more discussion about this topic. Or if you want to send an email to the Volunteer Resource Department with any concerns, please do reach out to us. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Oh, speaking of, so the back of the customer envelope. This is some information about how this is impacting customers. By the time that they get this, they should have already talked with the preparer and know this information, but this is just to reference when you're doing the checkout with folks. So that's something, as a reminder, what we're looking at right now are the changes of the paperwork that we're handing customers. So this was added onto the back of that customer envelope.
One tip that I may add, if I could, it won't take long to describe it. But I had a number, not a lot, but a number of occasions where the checkout list, I can't remember the wording exactly, but it says, does the taxpayer have any questions on their return?
Yes.
And I had 2 or 3 ladies that nothing to do about the ladies, but anyway, they started looking through the tax return every page, and they had multiple really difficult tax questions. And I thought, well, and then I had to go get the preparer to come over. So any taxpayer that I do a check-in with and I bring them down to a tax preparer, I always emphasize, please, before you leave the tax preparer's desk, ask if you have any questions, ask them the question and get them to clarify it, because I told them, I said, when you get to me at the end, that's too late.
Yes. Thank you, Steve. That's a good tip to let customers know beforehand. But what you did in that situation of getting the preparer so that they could actually answer those questions for the customer is also.
The tax preparer was very gracious and came over, but they weren't exactly thrilled about it, because they wanted to get to the next customer. But it takes a while to answer those questions. I had one lady sit with that tax preparer for, oh my God, half an hour, 45 minutes. He answered her question. So I don't know. It just kind of clogs up the process. And really, I think that should be the preparer's responsibility to, when that tax preparer leaves, to answer all their questions about their tax return. But that's just my opinion. I don't think you can. Because I have never been a tax preparer, so I don't have that background and the knowledge and to explain deep tax law to people. And I don't try to, because I might make a mistake, and that's the last thing they want to hear is a mistake. So anyway, that's just my opinion. But
thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Jeff, you have your hand raised, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna just say along that lines, what I've noticed sometimes is all of our preparers are great, and sometimes they just don't always click with a client. And
Mhm.
sometimes the client doesn't always feel comfortable asking that question. So that final, do you understand everything? Sometimes catches some stuff where they had doubt. And so I think it's been helpful in a few of those cases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, okay. No, yeah, I think the tax preparers are great and they explain things very well. Yeah.
I also find that I think some of the clients need that hour wait to formulate their questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
is
well, it's unfortunate because when they get to the customer service volunteer at the end, it's just my opinion. We shouldn't be answering tax questions.
Yes.
That's my opinion.
And
But,
Steve,
we
I absolutely agree with you. If there are questions that are being asked that you don't feel comfortable asking with, you definitely shouldn't try to answer those questions. And that's why it's really great that we have all of us in the room together, your manager,
right,
reviewers, the
right.
preparers, to be able to lean on each other in those times where we don't know something
Yeah.
and we need support in those moments.
Yeah, I mean, I had one client who just went over every line of the tax form, and she said, I'm really confused. She says, I don't understand. Well,
Yes.
I thought, what
Forms are
happened
confusing.
between,
The
what
forms are
happened
confusing.
between the communication? Pardon?
Well, the forms are confusing because there's algorithms behind the scenes they don't understand. So that's why I think we get the questions, is because they can't see that what they told somebody lines up exactly with the specific line. So that's where they get confused. And
Well, anyway, that we spent probably too much time on that. I just wanted to make a point, and that's what I do. I inform the taxpayer before you leave the preparer's desk, as you're going through the tax return with them, I really don't know what they do. Do they talk to the customer about every line, or do they just do the tax return and then show it to them and ask them if they have any questions? I don't know how that works, but it would be really helpful.
Most customers, the first time that they are seeing the full printed out version of their tax return is when they are sitting with you as the CSV. They do go through questions with the preparer. The preparer is usually at the end sharing what the final amount is. However, like Martha said, sometimes people need another hour and that more questions pop into their mind once they get the document in front of them. They finally are looking through it and have more questions. At that point, it's been through the review process, so we feel comfortable at that point with the customer looking through things. And if they have more questions, then that is something that we always want to take the time to make sure that we are answering, even if it would have been better if it had happened at an earlier point. If we get to that point and there are still questions, we want to make sure that we're supporting people as much as we can. I'm very sorry, Steve, but I'm going to move on.
Sure.
Let me make sure that we get through the rest of this material here.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your feedback and your suggestion.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay. So the next change that we're talking about here is on the intake for page 3. So this page used to be for renters, homeowners, mobile homeowners, and it just listed out all of the different kinds of income that a person might need to include in their M1PR filing. So instead, because renters are now being put into the state return, this is just a separate section and it basically just says, do you have all of your CRPs? yes, no, not yet, not applicable. So that's different there. The mobile homeowner section is actually, it looks a little bit different here, but it's all the same information. We've just condensed it a little bit so that it fits onto this one page, but it's basically just asking what are those non-taxable sources of income and lists them here. And then the questions about, do you use your home for a business? Do you have your property tax statement? Is there someone else living in the home that is not on your return? Those questions are the same questions that we have always been asking. So really what's being added here is that renters section. This bottom section is asking about the advanced child tax credit payments. So this one, you definitely do not need to be talking with the customer about this before they get to the preparer. This is an issue that preparers are going to be working with taxpayers who qualify for this. Basically, what it is, it's new this year. People are able to receive their Minnesota child tax credit payments in advance for the next tax season. So this tax season, they will be receiving in full their Minnesota child tax credit, but they have the option to opt into receiving advance payments of the following tax year's credit. So that's kind of the gist. That's really all that you need to know and understand about this. People are going to talk with their preparers and say whether or not they're interested in that. But there's no work or preparation that a taxpayer needs to do before they meet with the preparer for that topic. Again, though, this is something that we have been working with communications team to get out as much information as we can about this ahead of time. But the good thing about this topic specifically is that there's no extra work or paperwork or decisions that really need to be made before they come to the preparer. Okay. Sorry, I don't want to rush over that one. Does anyone have any questions about that topic? Okay. And then this next page on the intake paperwork, the only thing that's really changed is the we're no longer doing savings bonds, so they took out the savings bonds, and then we've just changed formatting. We've put some boxes around here so that it looks nicer. So not much there for the direct deposit information. Okay. And then the IRS intake form. So this first page is the same as previous years, collecting their basic information. There's a section here that is to be completed by the volunteers, not the customer. So if people are asking about that, they don't need to fill out that part. This is where our intake paperwork looks a little bit different, but it is all of the same information that has been on previous years. What's happening different here is that on the left-hand side, this is where the customers are filling out the information. They're going to be checking the boxes of, yes, I have W-2s, I have retirement account. They'll be checking off those boxes. As you can see, it no longer says yes, no, unsure. It's just checking the box. So we don't require the yes, no, unsure, every single box to be filled. They only need to check the ones that they believe that they have. On the right-hand side is where preparers are going to be going through and talking with the customer to finalize what are those answers with the customer. So It's all the same questions. There's just not the requirement of answering yes, no, unsure, because the idea is that the preparers are going through to clarify and make sure that every single question is answered correctly on their side of things. That really helps with not having things checked and then, oh no, we're actually unchecking this one and checking it yes or no, and you're trying to figure out which was the right answer in the first place, because it's all the correct information that's been verified by a preparer is going to be on that right hand side. In terms of your role as a CSV, there's still the A/B labeling to let you know about the certification level that is required. And that is what you will use to help you with setting up customers with preparers. And so this intake page, because of the way that they spaced it, there's actually more pages. I think it used to be 2 pages, but now it's 3 pages. It's just because of the spacing. There's the same number of questions. It's just spaced out a little bit more. Okay. And then as before, this page that is asking demographic information is optional. Prepare and Prosper, we collect that demographic information on the gray intake P&P paperwork. So additionally, this consent is optional. As a reminder, this consent is what allows taxpayers to roll over data to any VITA site. VITA is a national program, and by signing this, their data is being able to be shared to other sites. But it's not required in order for taxpayers to get their return prepared. And that's the same as with previous years. Okay. I think for the sake of time, let's see. Holly, what time is it?
7:09.
7:09. Okay. Yeah, my computer is I have 2 computers. My other computer is frozen. It's telling me that it's 6:53, but I feel like it's been 6:53 for a while. So instead of doing breakout rooms, because I feel like we got a lot of good conversation going on before, we're going to take a 10-minute break. So 7:20, we will come back. So go ahead, use the bathroom, do a little stretch if you'd like, and we will come back at 7:20. Thank you, everyone. Oops. Recording, then okay, recording in progress. This latter portion that we're going to be talking about are financial services updates and reminders. We'll also talk about the checkout process a little bit, and then we'll get you out of here so that we can all go to sleep. Okay, so as we all know, Boost Your Money form, this beautiful green sheet. This is kind of the bread and butter, the special thing that we have at Prepare and Prosper, getting people connected to resources that beyond just getting their tax refund is helping with engaging them in thinking about their personal finances and their future. So these pages are basically the same. The one thing that is different is that we don't have those savings bonds anymore. Yeah. Okay. Talking about direct deposit options. The Save and Win contest, Money Mentors, and Credit Services are on this page. And then on the second page, we have the financial planning, counseling, and the child savings accounts. Remember that if people are interested in receiving information, that we're getting that signature. This is a really important document in terms of making sure that we're following through with getting this information to folks. Sometimes we do have customers that call saying, hey, like, I thought that you all were going to reach out to me about this thing. And Kai will have to go back into our documentation because, you know, we don't know what people signed up for, but they can go back and look at this and say, oh, yes, like you did sign up for this thing. Like, here's the information that you need to follow up. We also want to be making sure that we're getting that signature for consent if they're entering into the contest as well. So making sure that we're taking those steps, filling out the checklist that's at the bottom of this document to make sure that we're tracking those referrals as well, because that's the initial point of that tracking form where we're entering that personal information. That's how we really know that we're going to reach out to that person. So if that doesn't get onto the tracking form, the paper form is kind of backup for, okay, what was that person interested in? But making sure that we're following through on our financial services log and the tracking form is what really gets people connected to these resources. Excuse me, I need to go blow my nose. Sorry. I'll be back.
I will take this moment to welcome Claudia Holtz, Prepare and Prosper's Senior Director of Programs and Strategy. Thanks for hopping on, Claudia. We're glad you're here.
Thanks. I see a lot of, as I'm looking at the list of folks who are here, I see a lot of like CSV MVPs here. So I'm excited. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the financial services referrals, but I'll let Mia keep going and then I'll jump in when it's my turn.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for entertaining while I blew my nose. Okay. Moving on. So, best practice for the Boost Your Money form. You can collect forms at any point in the process. During check-in, if there's a lull, people are filling out their paperwork, they're waiting for preparers. You can use that time to go and talk to customers. Also during preparation, when customers are sitting there kind of waiting while the preparer is doing that data entry, that's a great place. And while they're waiting for review. So prioritize following up on the forms that indicate that they have interest. We want to make sure that if people are indicating interest, we get the resources that they want, but also for people who say that they're not interested, there's still an opportunity to have that conversation with those money conversations. I should have put a page number on there for you, but on page 24 of your manual is all about money conversations, tips on what kinds of like example questions of what you can use to engage with a customer, how to use powerful questions, and what active listening is important. And, you know, I think a lot of people just want to share their story. So there's always opportunity for that, even if somebody's not interested in the services. We're not trying to sell anything, but I think that you all are in this role because you like talking to people, you like helping people, and sharing a good story, sharing that relationship with someone else. It can be nice anyway. And another best practice, make sure that you are keeping these boost your money forms and the financial services log in a secure location where all of the CSVs and managers know where it is. I know, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes we're running around trying to find, oh, whose form was over here? But having a set location can be very helpful. Let's see. I don't think that there was an activity with this one, but I'll just ask for one or two people to share boost your money best practices that they have.
I have a request for a best practice.
Okay.
Or if anyone has, excuse me, a suggestion on like their favorite way to collect the form. I feel like it's like if they do it ahead of time or they do it before you screen it, great, like can grab that. It can be hard to try and grab them, especially if you're busy while they're talking to preparers. And then by the time you get to review, usually people are trying to get out of there. And it can kind of like add on a lot of time. So curious if anyone has any like best practices there.
Thank you. Kimberly, do you have an answer for that question?
Hi, yeah. So I always walk around with an extra form, like the green form in my hand, and I especially like doing it when they're waiting during review because then that gives them an opportunity. They've already had the conversation. And I kind of offer the low-hanging fruit. Do you want to pull your credit report really quick? Kind of get some chatting. And then they go, well, wait, I was looking at this. What is this? And so I find that just having an extra form for them to look at is kind of that icebreaker.
Thank you. Sarah?
Hi, I was just gonna say I've had good luck with all three times, but especially kind of keep an eye open if they're in a lull part of the preparation and are looking kind of bored or things. Partly when I go, because I usually run out of clipboards by that point. So if I go around and looking for clipboards, then I do a check on the green form then. Because a lot of times then they like once they get to the preparer, they just stop filling out paperwork. And so it's a good way to kind of like reinvigorate that. And then at least it's done by the time they're done preparing, if not something we can talk about while they're kind of sitting there in a lull period.
Great. And then Sharon, last one for this.
I kind of do the same thing as Kim. I'll have an extra one, or I'll just go around. And one thing I like to do is just ask those if they're getting a refund. Really point out the save your money, and you're entered in to win, possibly. Are we still giving away
Yeah, this save and win contest.
save and win? Yeah.
Yes,
I like to promote that one,
Definitely.
just letting them know that, if you just put $50 into a savings account, and I just make mention you don't have to keep it there, you just have to move $50 there temporarily, and you're entered into a drawing that lasts the whole season. And we'll get that kind of perks their interest and just kind of start from there. But yeah, I always promote the save and win.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, really good feedback. It kind of sounds like everybody has like, oh, I have the form in hand and I'm walking around for people that are waiting for review, or I focus on save and win, or I use the opportunity of picking up clipboards to have that conversation. So maybe it's testing out those different avenues using kind of some practice or some specific referral to kind of get your foot in the door. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Okay. So, This is an overview of just the financial services process. Same as before, you know, people have the initial details from that Boost Your Money form. Then we are sharing resources. We have the box for the financial services, or if you're at the main site, the cabinet of forms, brochures, informational handouts, and such. Sharing that with the customer if they're signing up for things, making sure that we're getting their consent, tracking on the log, and the online tracking form. Yes. And I think with next steps, you do want to share with the customer that we'll be following up with you, or that they have the information to reach out to the whichever resources it is that they were interested in. Okay. This is just a reminder of what those logs look like. And it says critical for us to be able to reach out and follow through on those referrals.
Sharon, do you have a question or comment?
Yes. Oh, Sharon, your hand is raised. I'm not sure if it was from before or. Okay, well, Sharon, anytime you want to speak up, you can. So we're gonna just talk briefly about the CFR prepaid enrollment portal. It was a new form last year. So we'll just go over it briefly to remind you what it looks like. You will have your own login. Kai is the one that is responsible for getting all of those logins, but also reach out to the volunteer resource department if you have any questions about it. I know that sometimes it can be a little bit finicky with the authentication code. So if you want to practice doing that at home for the first time, that would probably be a good idea. And pardon me. The enrollment requirements, having the address that they can receive mail at, having the social security number, those are still the same as previous years. Okay. You know what I am realizing right now? I should have signed into this earlier because I don't remember my password.
He is just trying to demonstrate for all of us what could happen at the first clinic of the season if we don't do this at home beforehand.
That is exactly, yes. Thank you, Holly. All right.
Mia, do you want to skip and have me do my stuff and then you
Yes,
can
I
we can switch it?
absolutely would love to do that. All right.
Perfect.
I will stop sharing so that you can share your screen, Claudia. Is that how you would like to do it, or you need my slides?
I can't. Yeah, maybe let's have Holly do it.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Like I said before, I know that there are a bunch of CSV MVPs in this room. So I'm super excited. Like Holly said, my name's Claudia Holtz. I am the Senior Director of Programs and Strategy. And also, I started in the tax clinics in 2013 doing financial services, back when Dolores and I were financial managers, which is a role that does not exist anymore. And so financial services are my favorite thing about tax clinics. I love taxes. Don't tell the tax team I said this, but I love the financial services the most. So I'm just going to go through some things because now in my role at Prepare and Prosper, I get to oversee some of these programs that we get to refer people to from the tax clinics. And so we just wanted to have just more direct information from the programs that we're referring to so that if any questions come up, we make sure that everybody knows, all how the sausage is made on the back end. So Holly, could you actually go one slide back? I can do the banking stuff first. So hopefully everyone is already familiar with all of the Fair Banking Program. It's one of Prepare and Prosper's three core programs, our tax and financial services program, Fair Banking, and then the Money Ventures Financial Coaching Program, which we'll talk about in a second. And we also have one of our Fair navigators here in this training. And so I might mention Danielle. Danielle's here in this training. She does a lot of enrollments during tax season for Fair. Look, there she is. Danielle. So hopefully I'm not going to go into like all the nitty gritty of all the account features because all that stuff is in the materials you have in the manual, and maybe you have it all memorized from last year, right? Like you think, oh yeah, I know exactly how much the APR is on the credit builder. Maybe you remember that. I don't even think I remember that. But it doesn't matter because you have it in your tools, right? But one thing that's a little different for this year is really trying to differentiate between people who really need a fair account to put their refund in, like they want to direct deposit their refund into a bank account. They would prefer to have a checking account or a savings account as opposed to just a prepaid card, or they don't have a bank account of their own or information. So they really want to get that bank account for their refund. Now, that doesn't mean they're getting their refund just to put it in that bank account and then they're going to take it all out right away, right? Then we do want, the prepaid card is a better option for that. So if someone really wants to have a fair bank account, a checking or savings account for their refund, we will have, if you're at the main office, you're lucky because most of the main office clinics, either Danielle or Bramira, our other fair navigator, will be at most of those clinics during the season. And they can actually do an enrollment in real time with the customers that are there. And so they can get them a bank account right then and there. And hopefully the account will go through and they'll get their routing and account numbers immediately. And you'll just be able to put it on the return, easy peasy. Now, if you are at one of our partner sites, which is probably most of you because, there's 8 partner sites. If someone wants to use their Fair account, wants to open a Fair account for a refund, Danielle actually can be available virtually. Like you could put a customer at a computer at the tax clinic at Hallie Q Brown, and Danielle, if she's available, will be able to do a virtual enrollment on the computer and still be able to do something in real time. That's new this year, so I just wanted to flag that. And how you get a hold of Danielle is that it might not always be Danielle. There's other people on the fair team, just using her as an example because she's here. The managers who you may already be familiar with, they have a Slack channel that they're using that they can communicate with each other. Danielle will also be on Slack, so you can tell your manager that you have someone who needs a fair account to be opened for their refund, and then they can go on Slack and see if Danielle is available and not working with another customer, and can make arrangements to try and open an account right then and there from a computer at the tax clinic. So if she's not available, or if no one is available, or just the internet's not working well, or whatever's happening, we also have the opportunity for people to get a priority fair appointment. And there'll be a link to that in your materials, where we have set aside these kind of like the morning after each of the tax clinics, or like the next business day, we have appointments set aside for these sort of last minute enrollments so we can get people into accounts as quickly as possible. And then you can also talk to the manager and they can hold back a return to wait for the account to get opened so that they can get the routing and account numbers probably the next day. And all the lots of things will happen on the back end that you won't need to worry about. The takeaway is that if someone needs a fair account right then and there, either talk to a fair navigator who might be on site or talk to a manager to see if they can ping one of the navigators in the moment. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, perfect. Everybody's an expert. Great. And then of course the other side of that coin is if someone says, I'm interested in FAIR, but I already have another bank account for my tax refund. But I'd be interested somewhere else down the line, maybe to have FAIR. Feel free to just still mark it on that Boost Your Money form. They'll still get their contact information will come back to the FAIR team. We'll be able to reach out to them. You can also schedule a FAIR enrollment on the FAIR website, and they can just talk to someone. They could set it, a few weeks out or at just a time that's more convenient for them if they don't need to get an account right away. And that's also the same for the credit builders, because that doesn't have anything to do with a return. So if someone wants a FAIR credit builder, you can make sure you do the same process that Mia just talked about with the Boost Your Money form, making sure it gets logged in all the places it needs to get logged, giving them the information, or even signing them up for a FAIR appointment. Even if they have a lot of questions, you can also just sign them up for an appointment, and then they can talk to a FAIR staff member directly. If you do schedule them an appointment, probably write down somewhere what time their appointment is and what day it is, just so that they remember. That's just a little bonus. They'll get an email too, but it's nice to have it written down somewhere. People are getting so much information at the tax clinics. I mean, you guys are getting so much information now here in this training and hold so much information in your minds. You know what it's like. You're getting all this stuff and it's hard to keep it all straight. So trying to write things down is usually helpful. Okay, now we're going to talk about these referrals. Okay, and now we're going to do a little mini pop quiz on the spot. Actually, Holly, can you back out of this for a second? This was just a teaser. Is anyone brave enough to explain what the difference is between financial coaching, financial counseling, or financial planning? Or just pick one and then explain it as best you can. Anybody want to be brave? Danielle, I'm going to hold on 1 second because I know you know what financial coaching is because you're in the program or you were. Anybody else? Okay, Danielle, take it away. What do you got?
Okay, so coaching, our Money Mentors program is a great example of like financial coaching. Our volunteers that work in that program, they're not there to give like specific advice, but to help guide and be a what do you call accountability partner for people who sign up for that program's goals. So you go into the program like, okay, I need to work on paying off debt. I want to start budgeting better. I want to start saving. So the volunteers that work in that program are there to help you like, okay, well, if you want to start budgeting, let's look at your money. Let's look at your bills and what you need to put. Do you need to make more money? Same thing with like paying off debt. Okay, do you want to do the snowball method or avalanche? So our Money Mentors program is a great example of like the coaching. There's somebody to be an accountability partner with you.
Yeah. And does it matter what your financial goal is?
No.
No, it doesn't matter. It can be to increase your income. It can be to improve your credit. It can be to buy a house someday. It can be to save up enough money to buy a car. It can be anything you want it to be.
Yeah.
But this is the one caveat for Money Mentors is that the person has to be able to meet regularly with a coach to work on their goals.
And be serious.
And yeah, and be serious, which is, it's not for you to judge whether people are like really serious about their goals. But I think if someone's like, I don't know, maybe, give them the information anyway, and then they can make that decision for themselves. So you don't have to determine whether someone is going to be a great fit for the program. But if someone is interested in working towards a financial goal, it's a great way to start that conversation. Okay, anyone want to take a stab at the financial counseling?
Claudia, this is
Oh,
Doris. I was just
hi,
going to
Doris.
add. Hi. When you think about the coaching, a lot of people say, well, I don't know what their goal is. And so the coach can also help them determine goals. So I don't want to say, well, if I don't know a goal, you can't be a part of it. Really, the coach can work with you to determine that.
Yeah, exactly. It really is just about being motivated to make changes in your financial habits.
Yep.
Because I think a lot of folks want, they say, oh, yeah, I want to save money, but then they might not actually want to change anything about their spending habits. And that makes it really tough for coaches. But again, they can make those choices on their own about whether they are ready for the program. And we just want to make sure that they know what options are available to them. So, financial coaching, financial planning, and financial counseling all sound like they're kind of the exact same thing, but they are not. Financial counseling is really specific to addressing a financial need. And in this case, the financial referrals we give for counseling are things like credit card debt, student loan debt, or first time home ownership. So, those are the kinds of things that if someone mentions that they have credit card debt or just debt in general, we can set them up with a certified nonprofit financial counselor through LSS Financial Counseling, and and we can make that referral. And then financial planning, we used to refer to the Minnesota Financial Planning Association for their group of pro bono financial planners. We now have Prepare and Prosper has our own group of about a dozen financial planners that volunteer specifically just with Prepare and Prosper customers from the tax clinics. So if somebody has questions about retirement or like life insurance or investments, and not like, I need a hot investment tip, because that's not what they do. But if they're like, I have this, 401k, and they keep asking me like what kind of fund I wanted in, and I don't know what they're talking about, a financial planner might be a good referral for that. If someone's close to retirement or just starting out in a job and they don't know what they're supposed to save for retirement, or if they just had a kid and they are thinking about life insurance, they're thinking about children's college savings accounts, things like that. That's really good for a financial planner, which is a one-time referral. So this is then the next part of my quiz here is, with all these differences, how can you, in the conversations that you're having with folks, other than obviously like they're filling out the form, but if they're like, I don't know which one of these things I need, or I think I need all of them, what kinds of things can you listen for in your conversations to see if someone might be interested in any of these programs? Does anybody have any tips? Anybody?
This is Doris again. Would you say, when I think about the financial planning people, I think of that as more long-term things, like when they're thinking about retirement, or trying to do a financial plan or life insurance, versus money mentors and thinking about financial coaching is really more short term. These are my immediate needs. These are things I want to accomplish right now, and then that's when coaching is better. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, coaching is also ongoing. When you get matched with a coach, you meet with them once a month for 6 months or up to 2 years. Financial planning referrals are a one-time thing. It's really to ask like very technical questions. If we refer someone to a financial planner, they don't like take you on as a client and work with you through, throughout your, your retirement journey or whatever your goal is. Coaching is more of kind of an ongoing hand-holding situation. Financial planning is more for being able to ask really technical questions in a one-time appointment. And counseling, I really like to use counseling if you do look at someone's credit report, which I think Mia's going to talk about in a little bit. And if you pull a credit report and someone's like, "Oh my gosh, there's all this stuff on here that I think is wrong," or "Oh my gosh, this I didn't realize I had this much debt. I forgot that I had this credit card and it's like racked up all these fees and I don't know what's going on." Counseling is a really good option because they can actually consolidate some of those debts for you. They can put you on a debt management plan. For like first time home buying, they can help get you into down payment assistance programs. They can sign you up for first time home buyer classes. There's all kinds of stuff. But those are, again, really specific to needs like debt and first time home buying. Okay. And now just one last thing about Money Mentors. This is a little bonus we did last year for the first time. So if you were here last year, you'll remember this hopefully, is that Money Mentors also has a financial health challenge that we do during March and April. So it's an 8-week financial health challenge. Every week has a different topic. It kind of has like a spring cleaning theme of like spring cleaning for your finances. And it's like, look at your credit report. One week is, credit. One week is like sorting through paperwork and like getting rid of things or starting a budget or there's like these 8 different kind of challenges and folks can you don't have to be in Money Mentors to do the financial health challenge, and you don't have to do the financial health challenge if you want to be in Money Mentors. They are separate things run by the same program. But it's a good way for people to maybe dip their toe into financial coaching if they feel like, I don't know if I can commit, or I don't want to work with a coach, or I'm scared to talk to a stranger about my finances. There are weekly peer sessions that Sarah Botts, who is our manages the Money Mentors program, that people can just kind of have an environment that they can chat with other people who are also working towards the same sort of these financial challenge topics. And you just kind of submit a little, like it's almost like a journaling exercise at the end of every week, like what did you learn or what did you do this week towards your financial goal? And they submit those, and then everybody who participates gets entered into a drawing for a gift card at the end of the program. The best way to describe like why we do this is to again get people to kind of dip their toe into coaching, but also because we get so many people interested in Money Mentors during the tax season, we often then end up with a waiting list by the end of the season, and we want to be able to have something that they can do to keep them engaged while they might be waiting to get matched with a coach. So that's kind of the purpose of that. And there's a QR code on there that they'll be able to sign up for it on this little flyer that maybe is going to look like this, but maybe is going to look a little bit different. I think we're still working on it. Does anyone have any questions about Financial Health Challenge? Okay, great.
Hey, Claudia, can I
Yeah.
put you on the spot about something? Well, we haven't shared yet with the group that this year, instead of Saver Pigs, we are going to be using Saver Quotes. And so we're doing a little kind of shift with how we have people, share their quote about why they're saving to hang it on the wall when they enter the Save and Win contest. And Claudia, I feel like you might be the best to share just briefly about why we made the change.
Well, first of all, piggy banks are an easy symbol for like financial goals, but they're not the most culturally sensitive because pigs are not, in every culture does not think pigs are cute, friendly little things that you should put your money in. And so we wanted to switch out that imagery. And also, I think you can just get more information from people and more personality than what had been what people were writing on pig sometimes was awesome, but a lot of times they would just say like bills, like what are you saving for? Bills, or you know vacation. And so I think asking people about like what savings means to them or what it does for them or how it affects them just can get a little bit more information out of people and really shows how powerful savings can be. And I'm not sure if Mia already talked about this or in previous trainings that tax season is really the money moment for a lot of people. This is the biggest windfall of cash that they're getting throughout the year for most folks that are in this kind of income range that we work with, that their tax refund is a huge deal. And so it is a time for them to think about what their money can do for them in the future. It is a time for them to think about how they could pay down debt. It is a time where they can be like, oh, maybe I could save for retirement. And so that's kind of why we do all this emphasis on saving part of your refund, of being able to capitalize on that money moment to be able to plan for the future so that you maybe feel flush with cash in February because you just got this big tax refund, but what happens when your car breaks down in September? Or what happens if, you have to throw a birthday party for your kid in July and you don't have that big windfall of cash? The financial stability that you can get during tax season can help weather those financial shocks or emergencies or just like things that might be stressful if people didn't have savings or hadn't already looked at their credit score during tax season. So that's kind of the purpose of even having all these financial, not every VITA site has financial services at all. In fact, most of them don't. They just do the taxes and see you next year. And we really, at Prepare and Prosper, want to make people feel like they are getting support, not just on taxes, but on their entire financial lives.
Martha, you want to share something?
I wish you taught a class in high school.
You know,
Many kids need this.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
What I agree, but also if I definitely would not have paid attention if I was
Yeah, that's true.
I learned calculus in high school too, but ask me what I know about calculus now. Nothing. So, it's
It probably would go, yeah.
yeah,
I stand corrected.
it's sometimes hard to tell people, young people especially, about this kind of stuff because they don't have like the practical.
Well, my daughters got it, but they watched me.
Sure.
I think you need parents.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, never
Yeah,
mind.
so think about that as you're having conversations with folks who maybe have young kids. If you're teaching the parents to take control of their financial situation, if you're giving them these options to be able to find these resources in the community, then they do have the opportunity to pass that down and create generational wealth and get their kids more comfortable even talking about it.
That was just a sideline. Hi.
No, you are right, Martha. I agree.
Claudia, thank you so much for your the rousing mid mid to late training session speech. I feel like
course.
that's the inspiration we needed.
Perfect.
And to see you out, friends, do you want to wave goodbye to Claudia? Turn on your video, say goodbye, send her a reaction, just to acknowledge that we're so grateful you popped in.
Thanks, everyone. And I'll see you. I'm in and out of the clinic sometimes, so I'll see you guys around.
Huzzah.
Okay.
Thank you, Claudia. Have a
Good
good
rest of
night.
your training. Thanks, Mia.
Great. All right. I will go ahead and share my screen now. Oh, wow. Okay. We're going to backtrack a little bit back to the CFR card. Had my login. This is somebody had asked in the chat, Holly, do you know the answer to this? If people are still using their last year's login to get
It's
into
the same login, and if you still remember it, you can use it. You may need to change your password if you do not remember the password you created.
So same website, you'll log in, it will show you the dashboard to enroll new people. You click up at the top here and you're able to enter the information. If you are helping a customer with finding out their previous information, you can search them up here to get that account number. A lot of the times, if they've worked with us before, though, we could also look up their past year's tax return. So just a reminder for what that looks like. That's one that you might want to practice because, as you know, it does come up quite a bit in clinics. Okay. And then just a few reminders. You'll want to print out this confirmation page after you submit the enrollment form and make sure that a customer keeps that for their own records. If they have a previous year focus card, you can use the same one. They can order a replacement card. If we see that the account is on there, they can call the US Bank customers, sorry, not the US Bank customer service, call the CFR customer service. As we know, the US Bank does not directly service the customers. There's a specific customer service number for our CFR folks. And there's the flyers, or on page 40, I have it open. The phone number is right there. So you can use your resources to help people with finding their account numbers or knowing who to call to get a new card if needed. Okay, we just went through all of this. Yes, we talked about that. Some reminders about credit reports. Credit reports can be pulled on site if time allows. You can help somebody with going to the annualcreditreport.com and print out their credit reports. They can also request the paper credit report using those forms so that they can have it mailed to their address. And then when we are pulling credit reports, it's really helpful to also be giving them the handouts that we have about what are credit reports, so that people are able to do any follow-up on their own, to work on their credit and check that everything is okay. Yes, I would say also, you know, credit reports are a really great time if somebody pulls their credit report and they're wanting to go like more in depth or something like that. A Money Mentors referral can be a really great referral at that time so that they could talk about their credit further. Okay. So the last section that we have for today is some checkout reminders and updates. So the changes that are in the checkout section, we've actually already talked about them in terms of the renter's credit and the advanced child tax payment credit. But that's the changes in terms of process. Those are the only changes, but in the manual, we have updated how that looks. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. What page is this? 26 and 27. So we have our checkout process at a glance, the same as the check-in one. So that way you're able to see what are the different parts of our checkout process. We have that, and then my favorite page of this new checkout section, we have those at a glance. It breaks it into 5 parts, but as well, this page here, which is page 29, if you go to page 29, it uses the checkout list and it breaks it into what are those 5 parts. So I think that, sorry, I realize I'm talking into the paper. I don't know if you can hear me. But I think that this is really helpful because when you look at this at first, it can just feel like a lot of information and it doesn't necessarily feel like this is the step-by-step process that I'm taking, especially because we know that everybody's return can be a little different. Some people might be saving, some people might not. Some only have a federal return, or they only have a state return, or they're doing a paper return and one e-file. But this breaks it down into the core elements. Let me share, which are confirming the information on the tax return. You finalize the refund or payment details. So that's like one part. It might have multiple parts, but that's one element. Finalizing any financial services, and then getting signatures for paper and or e-files, and then the wrap up and intake, making sure that we're keeping our intake paperwork on site. So with that, really everything is pretty much the same. The two parts that we've already talked about in the wrap up section are the parts where we're going to be reminding folks that it applies to the changes to the renter's credit, that they will be receiving that as a part of their state refund rather than as a separate refund. And you can refer to the back of the customer envelope for that information. So that item is a new item on that checklist at that last section. And then additionally, the new advanced child tax credit. So again, those are people that are opting into receiving that credit earlier. What's going to happen is if somebody opted into this, we'll have this like half sheet is going to be stapled on the front of the 8879 paperwork. So you're going to know that you should do the final confirmation with the customer. Just say, the item here says, for customers opting in to receive advanced child tax credit payments, I confirm that they understand and agree to this process. So if you see this stapled onto the front of their 8879, you can just say, do you understand? And I want you to confirm that this is what you've opted into. They say yes, then you're good to go. You can check that one off. If they have any questions about it, have them speak to a manager. But if they are opting into this, we have a whole process that we're adding on to the preparers section where they are going in depth about this. They really should have gotten their questions about this answered before they come to you. And they would have signed this thing saying, yes, we understand. But because this can have a lot of impacts in different areas of somebody's life, we want to make sure that we're really being diligent with that. So that's just kind of the final wrap up with that. As a reminder for the checkout, don't rush the process. A customer can catch errors that are really important, like account numbers, addresses. If they're receiving a paper check, we want to make sure that they feel like they can look over that information. Let's see, early season refund delays. So returns with earned income credit and additional child tax credit are held by their IRS until mid-February. This is the case in every tax season that we have. If you remember, we have those little orange sheets that are out at the beginning of our tax season to let people know that some refunds are delayed until mid-February. And then after that mid-February timeline, we take away those little indicators because it will be processed at that time. As a reminder, follow the checklist. Page 29, my favorite page, to help you with kind of organizing in your brain where am I in this process? Yeah. Any questions about the checkout process?
I have a question on the refund delays. Remind me when it says that they hold the return until mid-February, does that mean then the refund will come mid-February, or it's like then that, 2-week processing time clock starts ticking mid-Feb?
If another manager is able to confirm this, I'm pretty sure that that just means it's processed, but the refunds just don't get
The refund itself is held, not the return.
Yeah.
Refund.
Correct. Can somebody
Thanks.
else confirm that that's right? I just want to make sure. Nobody else has information on this. I feel pretty good about that. But yes, I believe that the orange sheet says more on that. I can follow up.
Mia, I'm sorry, I couldn't get to my,
Oh,
I think it's they hold it, then they process. So they will do the return, but they have to process in case someone else has already applied for that same dependent. So they hold it, and then it's the 2 weeks, and then it goes out. Does that make sense?
okay. Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't get my mute off.
Okay. Thank you, Dolores. Okay. And then we've had a lot of good discussion already. Thank you everyone for being engaged. We don't have to force you to be engaged. So we're gonna go ahead and continue on with just some last reminders. Holly's gonna wrap us up here.
Hi, friends. But definitely, if you think of things about the checkout process, like tips, put them in the chat because I think any of the things that you've learned over the years would be valuable for everybody. Meanwhile, I just want to share that last year we had the change where now CSVs do the intake and interview and quality review certification test in addition to the volunteer standards of conduct. And so that's the same this year.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, I'll talk about the survey first. we have a new survey that's totally optional. It's for volunteers at the end of your shift to basically have a more direct line to the volunteer resources department, which is me and Sarah and Mary. So what we were finding is that a lot of times you all were like in person with your site manager, like Mia, and you'd be like, "Hey Mia, I have this need for that would help me be more supported in my role," or Mia, we should be training better on this. So then Mia had to pass it on to Willie, and Willie had to pass it on to the volunteer resources team. So we just want you all to have a really easy way to get information to me, Sarah, and Mary. So in the links that you all have access to, there's going to be it's like a 3-question survey, and it's basically like, did something good happen? Do you want to tell us a story about like something cool that happened with a customer? Because we don't always get to hear those stories, and we care about your work and we want to know what's good and what's going on. So there's going to be a chance to share like warm fuzzies or like even like among your team, like cool things you figured out. There's going to be a question that's like, how can we support you better? And then there's going to be like anything else, any ideas. And so if you have things that are like, hey, I have this edit in the CSV manual, or like, hey, this needs to be addressed. Please think of that survey as the place where we want you to let us know what's going on. So that's new this year. And then for certification, like I said, it's the same 2 tests, and this is the new website, linklearncertification.com. We are just about to send out an email that gives everyone your site placement. And also it's going to include a link to the information on like, here's the link to get certified and here's what you need to know. One thing you need to know is that the option you're going to click on is basic. So even though you're not going to take the basic tax prep certification, if you click on basic and do the first 2 tests, That will be all you need to do to then go in and sign your 13614, 13615. There's so many numbers. I don't know how we all hold all of them in our heads. You know what I'm talking about. So I think that's what I have for you about certification and surveys. And I see that Arlene has a tip in the chat for us. Amended returns are not processed until after tax seasons. Thank you for the reminder on that. And I would love, because we have some extra time at the end, would you all put in the chat something that you want the whole team to remember? Like, here's my big tip, or here's my takeaway from tonight. Like, let's spend 1 minute putting something in the chat that we want to remind everyone of, like something we covered tonight or something we didn't. And if you don't want to type it in, like, please come off mute and tell us the thing that's like, hey, here's something we need to remember together, or here's something I learned that we all should know.
Jennifer said, have fun if you're stressed out. You're going to stress out the customers. There's nothing we can't figure out together. Renee said, we are all in this together. It's okay not to know the answer, and it's okay to ask others. Teamwork makes the dream work. Sometimes it gets really busy and I don't feel like being as kind as I should be. Slow down, and if possible, is my advice for myself.
Beautiful, Jane.
Gregory, I love the idea of keeping a boost your money form on hand while doing rounds with people, waiting for a review as a prompt to start the financial conversation. Tom, which is actually Missy, says, I always use the same verbiage for forms at the start and end of clinic. For customers who don't trust the system, the consistency builds trust. Good one. We have the best job because we get to hear lots of thanks and send happy people. Well, most of them are happy on their way. That's true. The test link again. I'm assuming that is in reference to me not having my CFR login. Oh no, this is for the test link for the training. Sharonda said, for really long credit reports, we review online and have the customer log into their email to send PDFs to themselves. That is a really, thank you. I've never thought about that before. They can email the PDF to themselves instead of printing out 60 pages of a credit report. That is brilliant. Okay. I don't know why I've never thought of that before. That makes a lot of sense. All right. Well, to just wrap up with some final reminders. How do I get rid of this thing? Okay. You have your resources, the PMP volunteer training site. I believe that this training will also be posted on there. Is that correct, Holly?
Yes. In the next couple of days, we're going to have all slides up on the training site.
Yes. The checklist, the screening tools, customer handouts, and also when you're in clinic, the managers and your other volunteers. Teamwork makes the dream work. That's what I always say during clinic. I don't remember who said that in the chat, but I agree. And then reminder, this next steps is those certification test and make sure that you email that form to the Volunteer Resources Department. And tax season services begin January 25th. All right. Let's look at the chat. Is there any other questions that came through?
Oh, friends, I do have a link to a quick survey if you have any feedback or thoughts on how we can improve for our one other time we're offering the returning CSV training. So please hop in there and add like what was useful or what ideas you have, what you wish we would have covered more. We're so grateful for everyone's time being here with us tonight to talk about this season that's coming so fast. We're excited about the changes and really grateful for your time, Mia, to walk us through the updates.
Thanks for your support, Holly. Thank you, everyone. I hope that you have a good evening, and I'll see you during the tax season.
Bye. Bye, friends. Thanks for being here. Mia, do you want to stay on to debrief or do that another day?
Is there anything pressing right now? Okay, because my friends have been waiting for me. I think we're gonna go see a movie.
Okay, go see your movie. Have a fun night.
But tomorrow I'm available if you wanted to set up a meeting or something.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Have a good night.
Bye.